Namasarvebhyaha. Welcome back to the course Fundamentals of Asiddhatva in Paninian Grammar, presented by Vyoma Samskrita Pathashala. This is the 16th and the last session of this course. We will have a quick summary of whatever we have studied so far. येनाक्षरसमाम्नायम् अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्. So what is asiddhatva? I hope this is clear by now. So it is, as we saw, it's a kind of a control mechanism for sequential operation of rules in Vyakarana. So it operates in two ways. It allows the blocking of an operation by ignoring some transformation which has happened. For example, in the very first example that we saw, Lopashakalyasya removes the yakara, but that yakara lopa is ignored or is masked to the sutras of Swara Sandhis. So Sapada Saptadhyayim Prati Tripadi Asiddha. So Swara Sandhis are blocked by ignoring the yakara lopa caused by Lopashakalyasya. So most cases of asiddhatva are of this form, where because something is asiddha, you cannot do further operations based on that particular karya. So there are also a few cases where an operation is facilitated by ignoring something else. So we saw this in Abhiya asiddhatva, where Shas and Dhi. So even after the conversion of Shas to Dhi, Shas Hi to Shas Dhi. So even after He is converted to Dhi, so that transformation is ignored to apply Shahav. So in this case, we are not blocking Shahav from operating, but instead Asiddhatva allows Shahav to operate even after Hujalbhyo Herdhihi. Right? So these are the two effects of Asiddhatva in the sequential application of sutras. So we saw four types of Asiddhatva. The first and the most important is, of course, Purvatra Siddham, 8 to 1. So there is Sapada Saptadhyayi and there is Tripadi. So Sapada Saptadhyayim Prati Tripadi Asiddha. The whole of Tripadi is not recognized by Sapada Saptadhyayi. So it is chunk wise there is Asiddha. And being an Adhikara Sutra, at every step of the Tripadi, each sutra of the Tripadi is asiddha to all earlier sutras of Tripadi. So Tripadyamapi Purvam Prati Param Shastram Asiddham Syat. So we saw many examples of both of these. Say Lopashakalyasya being asiddha to Swarasandhis is an illustration of the first kind, whereas Sanyogantasya lopaha being asiddha to nalopah pratipadikantasya is an example of the second kind, where within the Tripadi, later sutra is asiddha to the earlier one. We also saw exceptions to Purvatra Siddham. So there are two specific sutras, Nalopa Supswara Samya Tugvidhishu Kriti, which is Niyama Sutra. Nalopa is asiddha only to these four operations: Subvidhi, Swaravidhi, Samyavidhi, and Kriti Tugvidhi. In other cases, like for example, for a Swarasandhi in Rajashvaha, Rajan Ashva, where Nakara is deleted by Nalopa Pratipadikantasya, but Nalopa is Siddha to Akasavarne Dirghaha. So Akasavarne Dirghaha recognizes that the Nakara has been deleted and it operates to give Rajashvaha. The other one is Namune, where Nabhave Kartavye Kritecha Mutvam Asiddham. So in Adashabda, where we apply Adasoser Dadu Domaha, so we have Amu and a. So here mutva is not asiddha. Because it is not asiddha, ghi samya applies and angonastriyam can apply to give the form amuna. There is also the concept of ashrayat siddhatvam, where if a sutra in the Sapada Saptadhyayi directly depends upon a resultant of a Tripadi sutra, then that will not be asiddha. As in the case of Atorora Plutadaplute, which requires a ru to operate. Ru is generated by Sasajushoruhu, which is in the Tripadi, but it is not asiddha. So if it were asiddha, Atoroho cannot apply anywhere. So Sutrarambha Samarthyat asiddhatvam na bhavati. We also learned some other general rules regarding Purvatra Siddham. One is that Utsarga Apavada will override Purvatra Siddham, because again the Sutrarambha Samarthya of the Apavada Sutra. However, Vipratishedha will not happen with a Tripadi Sutra, because the Tripadi Sutra is not recognized. So the earlier Sutra itself will take precedence. We cannot do Vipratishedha to make a Tripadi or an Asiddha Sutra operate. So next we saw another kind of asiddhatva as given by Shatvatukor asiddha. So which is in the Adhikara Ekah Purva Parayoho. So Shatve Tugagame Kartavye Ekadeshaha asiddhaha. So when we try to do Shatva or Tugagama, the Ekadesha will be asiddha. So we saw examples of Kosya, Kaha, Asya. So in Kosya, we have Okara followed by the Sakara of a Pratyaya, but Adesha Pratyayoho will not operate there, because the Ko Asya, the Ekadesha between Ko and Asya is Asiddha to Adesha Pratyayoho. Similarly, we saw Tugagama as in case of Adhitya, where we do Savarna Dirgha, but the Savarna Dirgha is Asiddha to Hrasvasya Piti Kriti Tuk. So it still considers the I as Hrasva and operates to give the Tugagama. So this is the Asiddhatva Shatvatukor Asiddhaha. There are specific Vartikas which give exceptions to Shatvatukor Asiddhaha, but we have not gone in detail into the sutra. So you can check out the Vritti Granthas for those exceptions. The third Asiddhatva we saw was Asiddhavad Atrabhat, the Abhiya Asiddhatva. So it is an Adhikara from 6.4.22 till the end of that pada. So Samanashraye Tasmin Kartavye Tadasiddham Bhavati. So an operation performed by one sutra in the range is asiddha to another sutra in the same range if both of them have an overlapping factor or ashraya. So we saw this with Hanter Jaha and Atohehe, also with Hujalbhyo Herdhihi and Shahav. So in one case, since the Ja Adesha, which is an Abhiya Karya, is asiddha to Atohehe, which is another Abhiya Karya, so the Hi is not deleted in Jahi. In Shadhi, so Shas and Hi, so we apply Hujalbhyo Herdhihi, but it is asiddha and therefore Shahav will also operate and we get the form Shadhi. The last kind of a siddhatva we saw was a siddham bahiranga mantarange, where a bahiranga operation, that is an operation whose conditions or nimittas lie outside or arise later. So such a bahiranga karya is asiddha to an antaranga karya. So antaranga is where antarbhuta nimittakatvam. So conditions lie inwards or arise earlier. So there are a lot of complex details discussed about Siddhatva in Bhashya and also in the Paribhashendu Shekhara. So those can be studied later. So this course, the purpose of this course was not to give a comprehensive coverage of all the kinds of Asiddhatva. It was more like a trailer where you're able to at least understand what is Asiddhatva and how it operates in various contexts. So I hope that as and when you go more and more into the texts of Vyakarana Shastra, so this background will help you understand the arguments, because most of these kinds of Asiddhatva, so sometimes they are brought out in the Kaumudi and Kashika themselves, and they would be explained in the Vyakhyanas. So if you have this background of the basic concepts of Asiddhatva, you should be able to read the details of those specific contexts and understand what kind of Asiddhatva is operating there and how. So I would consider this course successful if it has aroused an interest, in this magnificent structure which has been created by Maharshi Panini. So this is like, I don't know, you may be familiar. There's a game called Jenga, which is played with wooden blocks, where you keep taking out different blocks. The structure will stand for some time, but then you pick out one and then the whole thing collapses. So the structure of the sutras that Panini has built is something like that. Sometimes we don't even realize, we feel, okay, moving one sutra may not make a difference, moving some other sutra may not make a difference, but it does affect the structure as a whole. And there are some key blocks, especially in that Tripadi, the Asiddha Kanda, all kinds of Asiddhatva, they're all very key blocks. So if you remove them, the structure of the language literally collapses. So that's an amazing creation which Panini has achieved in the form of these sutras, and embedding all such advanced technical structural design into the construction of the Ashtadhyayi. So I hope you will all continue to study Vyakarana Shastra and appreciate such aspects which we see like every step in the Shastra. येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्।